All right, Madam Chair, it is 10:30.
All right, thank you, Kelly. All right, and welcome to the Subcommittee for Treatment and Recovery. I will read a disclosure. Please note, the statewide Substance Use Response Working Group, SURG, and its subcommittees may, 1, take agenda items out of order, 2, combine 2 or more items for consideration, or 3, remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion related to an item at any time. If you have a disability and require a reasonable accommodation to fully participate in this event, please contact Vicki Beavers, Executive Assistant to the Attorney General at 702-684-1212 or vbeavers@ag.nv.gov in advance to discuss your accessibility needs. Okay, agenda item number 1, we'll call the 4th meeting of the statewide Substance Use Response Treatment and Recovery Subcommittee to order. Kelly, please take roll.
All right, Councilwoman Thomas.
Present.
Chelsea Cheatham.
Present.
Dr. Leslie Dixon.
Present.
Jeffrey Iverson. Lisa Lee.
Good morning, present.
Steve Shell.
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Great. Okay. Next is agenda item number 2, public comment. Public comment will be received via Zoom meeting. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. No action may be taken upon a matter raised during a period devoted to comments by the general public until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241.020. Please wait until you have been recognized by the chair to speak, and Kelly will note if there are any raised hands for public comment and advise the chair. Once completed, the chair will ask for public comment via the telephone, and Kelly will ask those to join by phone to unmute themselves when the time is permitted. So, do we have any public comment?
We do, Madam Chair. So the first person who raised their hand was Rhonda Fairchild.
The chair recognizes Rhonda Fairchild.
Thank you. My name is Rhonda Fairchild, and I'm here for public comment. And at this time, I have no public comment, but thank you for allowing public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Fairchild. And Kelly, anyone else?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have Dr. Corona, please.
Hi,
Thank you.
this is Dr. Partita Corona. I recently finished fellowship in addiction medicine over at HCA Southern Hills under Dr. Strom. And I'm just coming on board to hopefully get a feel for what our approach is through SURG. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Corona. Anyone else, Kelly?
No, Madam Chair, I do not see any other raised hands, and we do not have any members joined solely by phone.
All right, thank you. And thank you for sharing in public comment. We appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is to review and approve minutes from May 16th, 2022 as revised, and July 26th, 2022 Treatment and Recovery Subcommittee meeting. We approved the draft minutes with revisions to be made for the May 16th subcommittee meeting at our July meeting. The revised minutes for approval included changes discussed during the July meeting, including corrections from Dr. Dixon from her presentation in May. She has provided corrections. Members, please review the May 16th revised minutes and note any changes or corrections. And if you have, we'll make a motion to approve or approve as amended. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes from the May 16th meeting. As amended.
Thank you. Right, the motion to approve as amended for the May revised minutes. Do I have a second?
Chair Thomas, this is Steve Shell for the record. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Shell. Okay, all in favor, acknowledge with yay.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move to also have our draft minutes from the July 26th subcommittee meeting. I will ask members to review the July 26th minutes and to note any changes or corrections or with those minutes. If no changes or corrections, may I have a motion to approve?
This is Dr. Dixon. I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Do I have a second?
This is Steve Shell. I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Shell. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you all. All right, we'll go on now to agenda item number 4, presentations from subject matter experts. Today, we will hear from the Honorable Scott N. Freeman. Judge Freeman is with the Department 9 Medication Assisted Treatment Court. After Judge Freeman, we will hear from Denise Parker, Assistant Court Administrator, 8th Judicial District Court. Staff has reached out to Tina Willer and Kaylin C., as we know, who had conflicts for this meeting. Ms. Wheeler can present in September, and we reached out to Ms. C. and about presenting in September or at a future meeting. There seems to be a little conflict that Ms. C is experiencing. So hopefully we can get her in because we've been waiting to hear from her. Now we are pleased to welcome and hear from Judge Freeman. Thank you, Judge Freeman, for your presentation today. We do welcome you, and please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right, Assemblywoman Thomas?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I would share with you that I, up until January and 4 years prior to that time, I was the Chief Judge of Washoe County. As the Chief Judge of Washoe County, I presided over every specialty court and all the specialty court judges. Thankfully, my term was up in January and now I'm just a regular judge again. But I'm very pleased to have kept medically assisted treatment court, which I've presided over for probably now going on 4 years. And I was asked to speak about medically assisted treatment court. So I want to share with you that at least in Washoe County, I find it to be a tremendous success. Medically assisted treatment court, of course, are offenders that have addiction to heroin, methamphetamine, alcohol, etc. And the uniqueness of medically assisted treatment court is, for example, I'll give you a typical Monday when we meet. At 3 o'clock in Washoe County, I'll meet with the district attorney handling medically assisted treatment court or MAC court. I'll meet with the public defender, the probation officer who's in charge of logging fines and fees for the offenders, and representative of our treatment facility, which is called HOPES. We've contracted with HOPES in Northern Nevada and in Reno. And we all meet together, similarly like we're meeting now on Zoom, and we talk about each offender. I get a printout from our staff member with the court, and we have, at least I've organized it in 3 different groups. Those that are going to graduate, those that are doing well, and those that need a good talking to. We call that the compliance list. And I'm pleased to share with you that my compliance list in the last 2 years has been very, very few, because I tell my offenders when they come to our court that I have 3 rules. Other than taking the medication that's required and prescribed to assist them with their addiction, my first rule is be clean and sober. My second rule is to be clean and sober. And my third rule is to follow the rules. And I tell each one of the offenders when they come to my court, that's my rule. And so they understand what's required. And I say, well, is this the court you want to be in? And they say yes. And I say, I want you to be the best possible participant you can be. And remember my 3 rules. And so that's the framework of medically assisted treatment court in Washoe County. And how it occurs is an offender will be sentenced by a particular district court judge. They may start in what we have as our drug court, which is a general specialty court, of course, in Washoe County. And then when the offender is identified to need medically assisted treatment by taking medicine like Suboxone and other types of drugs that will assist with their addiction, then they're sent to my court. And I have rules that are required where they go to orientation, know what they have to go to groups at HOPES. They have to get their medication from HOPES. Sometimes they'll start an inpatient program. But the uniqueness and what I find extremely valuable is some of the lessons we learned as a result of COVID is that you actually can do these courts remotely. And I will tell you right now that I've had some very funny stories, but I'll tell you right now, my addicted offenders can get on Zoom better than a lot of very wealthy lawyers. They know how to get on. They know when court is. They show up. I'm so pleased about that. And it doesn't take away from the work that they're doing. If they're at their job site, whatever, they know what time court is. Mondays at 4 o'clock. They tune in. I speak with the ones that are doing well very briefly. And I spend some time with the ones that aren't doing so well. But that's how court goes. And that's what's happening in Washoe County. I apologize. I didn't prepare any slides. I just heard this week I'd be speaking. And of course, we have our Chief Judge, Lynn Simons, oversees all the specialty courts. I'm sure she'd like to make a presentation. As I understand, someone later in your agenda is doing for the 8th. We certainly could do that for the 2nd for you. But I was told to speak about MAC court, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Judge Freeman. And I think Judge, is it Simon, S-I-M-O-N?
It's S-I-M-O-N.
Okay, great. We look forward to hearing from her also. But any questions from the subcommittee members?
Yes, Madam Chair, Member Lisa Lee has a question.
Thank you. Member Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. Sorry for always being so inquisitive. I do have a question regarding the medications used or the medications allowable by the court, Judge Freeman. Is that open to all medication types that are FDA approved, like methadone, buprenorphine products like Subutex and Suboxone and naltrexone?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Depending on the answer is absolutely. And what's really I find very positive is that that's not only allowed, but of course, medically prescribed for the particular offender. And once that's prescribed, one of my requirements is they get the medicine when they're supposed to. They can't miss their appointment for the medicine and give me excuses why they're not taking it. And that's been very far and few between. So the answer is yes.
thank you.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, we have a participant, a member of the public. Dr. Corona has his hand raised, but also member Chelsea Cheatham has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with our member Chelsea Cheatham and then Dr. Corona in that order, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that presentation, Judge Freeman. I just wanted.
I didn't hear you.
Chelsea, all of a sudden we've lost your audio.
Hi, can you hear me better?
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think my internet was starting to go out. No, I was saying thank you for that great presentation, Judge Freeman. I was just wondering, what do you think are some of the greatest needs and barriers of people that are participating in the MAC court in order for them to stay compliant?
That is a great question and extremely easy. The answer is the addict has to make the decision for themselves that it's time. If they are playing games in that they're trying to do the bare minimum to get the dismissal or the diversion or to get an honorable discharge from probation, they can't in medically assisted treatment court because I meet them once a week and they are required to do things during the week that's reported to me on the Monday. So what is the biggest barrier? The biggest barrier is themselves. Don't waste our time in medically assisted treatment court if you don't want to get better, if you don't want to stop committing crimes, if you don't want to victimize the community. Don't be in my court. The people that are in my court want to be there because they've made that decision. And it's like anything else with addiction. I truly believe that 95% of crime that I see as a district court judge is drug and alcohol related, mostly drugs. And the addict has to make the decision themselves that it's time. And sometimes repeat offenders don't want to die in prison. And sometimes addicts make the decision that they've destroyed familiar relationships and other negativity is in their path. They want to change. And so the biggest barrier is themselves. Once they decide that this isn't the life they want, the types of programs that we have, and I can't speak for the 8 in Clark County, but in Washoe County, the types of programs that we have fit so nicely for recovery that our recidivism rate is about 2%, literally 2%. I'm so proud of that statistic because it works. And so that would be the long-winded answer to your question.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Madam Chair, I believe we have Dr. Corona and then Dr. Dixon.
All right, great. Thank you. Dr. Corona, please.
Yes. Well, one, I'd like to say thank you, Judge Freeman, for doing what you do and for having such an open mind in regards to basically using the internet for these court visits and the like. I think that is very needed, especially when you're talking about rural areas. My question is in regards to treatment, because there has been a lot more telemedicine being used during this pandemic. And I believe that's been used to some effect when it comes to medication-assisted treatment. Are those resources there for the folks in MAT court?
Sorry.
So that's one part of my question. The other part of my question, because I run into a lot of patients that are, say, part of the pipe fitters union, carpenters union, electrician union, and they oftentimes end up getting contracts to work in other states. And when you're dealing with patients that are in treatment for that, a lot of times they miss out on those employment possibilities. And obviously it's a much more stressful situation for them because those sorts of professions are, feast or famine usually. And so I guess my question there is, have you run into that in court, and how do you handle that when you have patients that have to go out of state for their work?
Excellent question. So I'm going to back you up for a moment and respectfully share with you that they're all criminal defendants. Everybody that's in my court is in court because they're a criminal defendant. So what happened is they committed a crime in our community, and instead of going to prison, they either get probation, where MAT court is a special condition of probation, or they're looking at diversion, whereupon they successfully graduate from my program and their case is dismissed. So all of them, doctor, have a formal probation officer. They are not allowed to participate by telephone. They may not phone in. One of their requirements for purposes of discipline is they must show up for their appointments. They must show up at Hopes and participate in group. And if they decide, if Hopes thinks they need individual counseling, they have that facility, they have that ability at Hopes as well. Again, our contract is with that facility in Washoe County. The second thing you asked is if they're allowed to work out of state. That's a violation of their probation. They may not leave the state to work out of state. They have to, if they are going to go visit family or special occasions out of state, they must get permission from me to do so. And for me to give that permission to allow them to leave our state, they have to be totally compliant with our program. They have to be up to date with probation. We have a probation officer assigned to my court. I make sure their fines and fees are up to date, and it's a privilege to leave the state for special occasions, and they are not allowed to work out of state. And the reason is, candidly, if you had a bad apple, so to speak, who decided it was time to leave, we have to extradite them back from the state they decided to go to, which is part of the criminal justice process. And that's why we do not allow anyone to go out of state. It is an in-state Washoe County program, if that answers your questions.
That does answer my questions for the most part. When it comes to in-state travel, though, say between Reno and Las Vegas, at least, how would that be handled?
They still have to have permission to leave the county because they're a county offender, and for them to go to Las Vegas, there's not freedom of travel when they're offender. They have to get permission because they're on formal probation, and the probation department, as part of their duties, must know where an offender is at all times if need be. So they also have to have permission to travel in state.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So Madam Chair, Dr. Dixon has her hand raised.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, Judge Freeman. I have worked with Dr. Corona. I'm one of the psychiatrists down here in Las Vegas doing MAT. And my question is, one of the things we've been working on, the company I work for, is getting more medication into the jails. And so I was wondering about up there in Washoe County, does Nevada Hopes, are they able to deliver either methadone or Suboxone to the jails if some of your clients, for instance, end up back in jail?
Well, to answer your question, honestly, I'm not aware of the jail allowing that type of medication in the jail. one of the they do have some treatment modalities in the jail, but not medically assisted treatment to my knowledge. Typically, if someone has to go to jail in my court, it's a matter of sanction. They're not there very long, and we try to keep them in the court as much as we can. But if they continue to offend, so to speak, and miss tests, test dirty, not following the rules, then I send them back to the sentencing judge that originally sent them to me. So the answer to your question is no, I do not believe there's any medicine like what I provide through HOPES up at the Washoe County Jail, because the focus would be for the offender to be out. I don't have any offenders that I supervise in medically assisted treatment court that's in custody. I don't do it from court. I don't do it from jail. Everybody is out.
Okay. It's like Lisa.
Madam Chair, member Lisa Lee has her hand raised.
Lisa froze.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you. I was coughing earlier. Sorry about that. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Did you have a follow-up question?
Nope.
No? Okay. Chair recognizes Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. I just wanted to answer Dr. Dixon's question before asking questions. Yes, they do. The jail, the Washoe County Sheriff's Office opened a narcotics treatment program, which is kind of like a miniature OTP or opioid treatment program. If anyone's familiar with those SAMHSA and DEA regulations for OTPs and NTPs, they offer all medications, including methadone. So they do. And previous to that, they did allow delivery of medications within the jail. And that included all medication types. If someone was a patient, an existing patient at a local clinic, whether that be on methadone or buprenorphine, and they did naltrexone injections in the jail. So they did offer all of those previously, and they do offer all of them. But I do have a question for Judge Freeman as a follow-up. Initially, when I asked my question about all FDA approved medication types, specifically around medications for opioid use disorder, you answered yes, that they were all offered. However, Northern Nevada HOPES is not able to offer methadone. So I'm wondering if someone is an existing, they have care with, say, BHG or the Life Change Center, the two OTPs or IOTRCs. And I'm sorry, I should talk about my acronyms here. An Integrated Opioid Treatment and Recovery Center, an IOTRC. If they can get their medication through your court?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was a little thrown off by like they only had to go to HOPES.
Yeah, we try to get the treatment piece there, but as far as pre-existing medications, yes, they get it from other places. And frankly, I didn't know what you just shared about the jail because I don't supervise that treatment program at the jail. So thank you for letting me know that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm really, really proud of our very progressive sheriff's office, who has really, paved a way for progressive practices relating to substance use with incarcerated people. My second question is related to back to your response on Chelsea Cheatham's question regarding the biggest barrier. You mentioned kind of an intrinsic motivation factor, it sounded like, and there's a ton of research that supports intrinsic motivation as a factor in maintaining recovery versus, say, externally motivating factors such as justice involvement or child welfare. And so what kind of practices do you have? I know that there's a move for trauma-informed courts in the state of Nevada that I'm very, very supportive of. I'm wondering around what strategies does your staff have in place to help increase a person's intrinsic motivation through the use of, say, motivational interviewing or something like that?
Exactly. So what our team does is they identify once the offender's in my court, we learn about them, like what, for lack of a better way to say it, what are they up to? What's their family life? Do they have children? Are they looking for work? what's motivating them to stay sober? Is it family? Is it trying to get out of one of our inpatient facilities called Crossroads, for example? Is that motivating them to continue their sobriety? So it's really getting to know the offender, and that's what I do on Mondays. Is I talk to them and I say, tell me what's happening with you. I understand you're getting your CDL so you could work for Waste Management, was one of our offenders. Very proud of telling me every week how his testing was going and how his interviewing was going and how his goal was to get a very well-paying job at Waste Management. And I totally encourage that. I had another offender that I knew from being in district court who decided that the light went off for him, and now he's painting for a well-known painting company. And I see him on the video, and I say, Nico, when you get done painting and you get done with our program, I want you to come over and paint my house. He gets a kick out of that every week. So the point of it is getting to know the offender and keeping them on that right track. And that, to me, is the trauma-based education related to what's happening in their lives, to try to address it, consistent with outside influences that are not necessarily punitive or part of the justice system. That once they're on the track and they make the decision that they want not to be an addict anymore, so to speak, then we certainly support that in every way.
Madam Chair, Dr. Dixon has her hand raised.
And the chair recognizes Dr. Dixon.
Thanks again. So one of the issues with specialty courts is a lot of our people who go to specialty courts, including MAT court, is housing. What is your court doing to work with the community to get these people housed?
Well, we have some inpatient programs. And as I mentioned, the Crossroads program is, in my view, one of the state-of-the-art recovery programs we have that work with their housing. But the general answer is that our outside agencies assist with housing when needed. There's a couple of facilities in Reno that I know people go to that are similarly situated folks that draw support in recovery. We have that, but to answer your question fully, that's what I leave to my team and their support. And so I'm aware of it, but I'm not hands-on with it. So I wish I had a better answer for you.
Well, that's good. That's a good start. Okay, that's it. That's my question.
Any other questions from the subcommittee for Judge Friedman? I have a question. I wrote down about 3 questions, Judge Friedman. One on the top of my list is our veterans. When veterans come into your court, of course, they have committed a crime, but how are they handled? And I'll just ask that for right now.
Sure. Unrelated to medically assisted treatment court, we actually have a veterans court in Washoe County where veterans see one of our district court judges. And again, whatever necessary assistance they need by way of either I'm not going to say medication, by way of treatment, counseling, making sure that they are employed, those types of things, is our Veterans Assistance Court. It's a specialty court for veterans. If a veteran comes to medically assisted court, it's really not because they're a veteran, it's because of other factors. But to answer your question directly, our Veterans Assistance Court deals with veterans directly.
All right, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And how long is your program, meaning basically what's the graduation rate?
Oh, goodness gracious. My graduation rate's 98%. I'm proud of that, but let me go differently with you. How long? So they're supposed to stay in for a year. I sometimes keep them longer. The statute for formal probation for a category E is 12 months, but I put all the judges in Washoe County put in their order that can be extended by the specialty court judge depending on the programming. So for me, the average stay is a little bit longer than 12 months. And when they're also I want to share with you another component, that when they're clean and sober, when they're following the program, then I talk business with them. A lot of people have restitution they have to pay back for their crimes. I want the victims to be paid. That's a priority for me. And then once the restitution is paid, then they look at the fees that are the cost for being in the program. We do entertain waivers on occasional basis, but I believe that being a productive member of society is not only being clean and sober, but also paying your debts, financially paying your debts, having a job, understanding budgeting, because you're going to need that when I don't get to see you anymore. And so those are some of the things that we work through.
Okay, so that's the length of the program is predicated on whether or not they've completed all of the particulars, like their fines and fees and things like that.
But also if they've reached maximum benefit, because I've actually sent back for graduation to the sentencing court offenders that have not paid all their fines and fees because they can't. But they've reached maximum benefit. So maximum benefit means they're consistently clean and sober. They're consistently working. They're consistently dealing with their families. There isn't any, and they're not in need of the medication, or it's handled in a different manner. It doesn't need court intervention. So it's really meeting with them on the basis that we do, and seeing how they're doing for graduation. But it's no less than a year. It can be greater.
Well, thank you, Judge Freeman. This was really a lively. I think everybody was perking up around here. Thank you for your.
It's a story of my career. Everybody's
that you perk up everybody, huh? Okay. Thank you, sir. I do appreciate your presentation.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to check. Lisa Lee, did you re-raise your hand? Yes. So.
Okay.
Ms. Lee raised her hand again.
Okay, Chair recognizing Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee, for the record, I as a staff member of Washoe County Human Services Agency, I just wanted to state for the record that our Crossroads programs are men's, women's, and children's. Crossroads programs are not an inpatient program. I just want to state that for the record, we are considered a community living, supported living, like recovery residence program. We do have, the ability to offer outpatient services. So level 1 outpatient, not inpatient services. I just wanted to, or my director would probably be upset if I didn't say something. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say that a lot of times the offenders will literally be meeting with me on Zoom from Crossroads where they're staying. And again, they get on Zoom very well from Crossroads.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, thank you, Judge Freeman. We do appreciate your time with us. So next we'll welcome Miss Denise Parker. And I believe—
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to let everyone know that you are with the 8th Judicial District Court and here in southern half of the state. So welcome, and please go ahead.
Great. Thank you all so much for having me. If you don't mind, I'm going to keep I'm currently off and I'm up in Zion on vacation, but this is such an important topic that I really wanted to be able to present. However, the Wi-Fi seems to work better if my camera is off. So if there's no issues with that.
None whatsoever. Please go right ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So my name is Denise Parker, and I'm the Assistant Court Administrator for the 8th Judicial District Court. I'm currently over specialty courts and the juvenile division. And then we can go to the next slide if you want. So just to do a really quick recap of our specialty court programs, we have adult drug court. We have our transitional age program, which is our 18 to 26-year-olds. Then we have a felony DUI program. That's when participants receive their 3rd DUI. It's a very intense. That's our longest program. It is 3 years. It's a minimum of 3, up to 5 by statute. Then we have our mental health court. We have a juvenile drug court. We have veterans treatment court. And then we have an open program, which is another 18 to 26-year-old but you don't have to have a substance use disorder. This is really in place of being sent into incarceration. We can go to the next one. Thank you. Then we have our family treatment court program and our gambling treatment diversion court program. Then we have a co-occurring court. Then we have a medically assisted treatment court, and ours is a reentry court program. So by statute, we can take inmates out of NDOC up to 2 years before their parole date. And so they are considered an inmate within the community under the supervision of the court. The reason that that one is a medically assisted treatment court is because of how the funding is. And so I'll get to that in a later slide. Then we have our LEMA program. This is the only one that is not heard in a court setting, especially court setting. This is a true diversionary program. It's a partnership with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and the courts. So they are not being cited or anything else. This is a true diversionary program. They are not entering the system. Then we have our day court, which is our detention alternative for autistic youth program. So these are just kind of a few statistics so you guys can see. The reason I left 2019 in is so you can see the growth after COVID. So adult drug court is still our largest, but however, back in 2019, our newer programs were the co-occurring disorders court, our medically assisted treatment court, gambling treatment, diversion court, and our day court. So there's not a lot of statistics. So if you go to the next slide, we can look at the different numbers really quick. I'll just recap a few. So adult drug court is our largest court. So the current numbers, what that really means is on July 1st, 2020, there was 486 active. Throughout that year, we added 232 participants. We had 126 graduate and 103 terminations. So that can be for a multitude of different reasons, but they did not graduate. Then we have our TAP program, our felony DUI program. I really kind of have those statistics there for, people to look at and ask questions if they have questions. And then next slide, please. So our next slide is looking at the different drugs of choice. So our drugs of choice, what we're recording is self-report. However, I think it needs to be noted that in our juvenile treatment court, we will not take youth that are low risk or only have marijuana use. However, that is usually what they state as their primary drug of choice. I think it's also really important to discuss that in especially courts, we do risk needs assessments, which is best practices, to really identify and make sure that our risk levels are the same, that we're only really taking the moderate to high risk offenders that have a moderate to high risk of recidivating. And then they are usually high needs. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is really looking at our costs and savings. Sorry. And so it should be noted that 4 of our programs were built specifically on grant funding. With that being said, our medically assisted treatment court is specific to opiates and stimulants based upon the funding. We would love to have a reentry court that could accept, any participant with an SUD. However, based upon the funding, they have to have an opioid or stimulant use disorder. Our day court is strictly using AA fees. So the point of this is to really talk about kind of the need and things that we're facing. So a lot of times we've gone out and found grant funds to kind of fill gaps that we have within our systems. So one of the biggest things is the housing. And I know that was kind of touched on before. So for our programs, we have multiple grants that fund residential inpatient level 3, Additionally, we have a housing model that is SAPTA certified transitional housing with case management. So specifically in our contracts with our providers, what we are really looking for, and this is where I want to kind of spend the majority or a few minutes of this presentation, what we're really looking for is a place where that participant can go, especially in the very beginning stages of their recovery, and they can live there. They have their case management, they can get placed on insurance, they can start looking for either developing their skills or finding employment. They get placed on insurance, they have a primary care doctor that they need to meet with. We have different things. We also require them to have treatment on site. So I guess the big difference between our housing, and I think what originally started with a grant about 5 to 6 years ago, was we have people sitting incarcerated because they have no housing. And so they don't fall under a homeless definition, but they fall under, they have no housing because they can't, being placed on probation, they cannot return to the house that they previously lived in for multiple reasons. If somebody else in that house had a felony, if there's drugs or alcohol in the house, if the people that own that house or are on the lease for that apartment does not want probation to come into the house, they can't go there. So a lot of times we have people that are incarcerated, have already been sentenced because there's no place for them to go and to be supervised by probation and to have that supportive environment. So about 6 years ago, we wrote a grant, and that really started it. And we continued to write grants. We went with SAPTA grant, SAMHSA grant, and then we just continued on because we still face a housing issue in Southern Nevada, especially when looking at this population, because they don't qualify for a lot of federal funds for homelessness. So that's one of the big things that we seem to continuously face. The other thing is really evaluation and looking at the programs to have an outside independent evaluator. I am very data driven. I really like that we have DCCM and we use it across the state. I know that there's always difficulties with a lot of case management systems, but I think it's really important to really go in and see what's working, what's not working. We identify the statistics based on our grants, and we meet with our providers. You know, we've hosted trainings for motivational interviewing with our housing providers because a lot of them don't have that therapeutic background. However, we need them to keep our clients engaged so they are not absconding. We want to continue to look at recidivism rates. And the other thing that I really just want to touch on, because I think it's extremely important, is our children's mental health. In Southern Nevada, we lack a lot of children's mental health and substance abuse services. We send the majority of our youth that need residential treatment out of state. So that's definitely something that we're focusing on in trying to support the current providers and bring more providers in. Next slide, please. Thank you. I kind of touched on that with our future program goals. Housing is still a struggle. We had people, February 18th, 2022, we had 135 individuals on a wait list for residential treatment and or supportive housing. Then, so we're always trying to increase our residential treatment as well. As most people know, when it's level 3 substance abuse treatment, Medicaid doesn't cover it. We're really trying to decrease our referral time, the time from CCDC to treatment. And we want to continue to update our program curriculums. As everybody knows, evidence-based practices show that there's new and different things that come out that can really help, especially with, trauma support. I would love to bring in more EMDR. And so increase supervision, increase our oversight of participants that has been difficult with COVID, and continue to expand our judicial staff with the increase in population and everything else. We have a lot of different programs. Our calendars are getting very large, and then monitor and evaluate specialty courts. We too have, so especially courts, you know, they do work. We have really low recidivism rates as well. We're really thankful to the administrative office of the courts. They run a 3-year post-discharge conviction rate for our specialty court participants. You know, our adult drug court, I'll just name a few. 92.1% did not recidivate. That's our largest court. And again, we are working with the most high risk need participants. And our felony DUI court, our 3-time DUI offenders, we've had 98.2% that did not recidivate. So that's my brief overview of, I don't think I stayed within my 5 to 10 minutes. I'm very sorry. And that's my information. If you guys ever need anything, have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. I appreciate that detailed presentation. Really do appreciate it. Any questions from our subcommittee members? Wow, I guess you did a great job. That's great.
Madam Chair, I don't see any questions. Actually, Ms. Lee just raised her hand, and then we do have a member of the public, Dr. Corona, raised his hand as well.
All right. In that order, Chair recognizes Ms. Lee and then Dr. Corona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. I don't have a question. I feel as Ms. Parker's presentation was rather comprehensive. I just wanted to, you know, say that I really appreciate the data-driven approach. I really love that, just to see, you know, it looks like this system has a lot of different pieces. And I love that they have a data-driven approach. So I just wanted to commend Ms. Parker on that. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you so much for that statement. If I can just add one thing to that. I mean, I think that that's one of the really important things in looking at, you know, the data is when we first started with our housing, we really looked at, I mean, we had issue with the data, meaning we would discharge someone because, you know, they used and then had to go to detox. But our successful transition rate wasn't as high as we would like. I think it was like in the 50s at one point. And so we really pulled together with our treatment providers and our coordinators and our staff. And I think that the most important thing is to really sit down and say, okay, what can we do better? And that's when we started training, because, you know, you have case managers, like they're housing providers. Therefore, you know, you have to train them in that motivational interviewing and looking at those different things. So I think that it's really important to examine where you can improve. So thank you so much for that comment.
Thank you. And Dr. Corona?
So again, I would like to reiterate, it's beautiful to see that you're actually using a data-driven approach. And I think the data in time will speak for itself as for the value of these courts. My question is twofold. One, from the sound of it, the most difficult part that you're running into is the transition from incarceration to being back out in the community. And am I right in saying that?
Correct. That's one of the biggest issues that we face.
Okay, so right now, Dr. Strom and I, she's the program director for the addiction program at HCA, but we're working on a Nevada Bridge program for people that present to the ER with addiction issues to provide a warm handoff. I think the same thing needs to be put in place for folks coming out of incarceration. One factor that you mentioned was the lack of housing, and this is my other question is, are there any talks about the fact that we have, I believe, both Fiesta casinos, the Texas casino, and I believe there's another casino that are all basically laying fallow and about to be torn down, that could probably easily house a good deal of these folks if we set up some sort of program there.
So, great question. Thank you. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any conversations around that or those particular sites. I think it's also really important when we talk about housing to talk about exactly what kind of housing we're talking about, because I think one of the issues is for our participants, we want to make sure that there is a recovery support around them, that there's case management on site. It's very difficult, especially in Southern Nevada, to continuously get to all these places, right? So our participants have to go drug test. Now, say you go through social services, you have to meet with social services, you have to do multiple things. That's why we really built this model under specialty course and the grant funding, that everything is on site. Sometimes they have to go to a different treatment provider because of their insurance, or there are still things. However, we really want to make it that they can be there, get that support, get that recovery mind frame, and then venture out, right? And progress and move to kind of the next phase in the recovery of self-sustaining, getting their own housing, becoming employed. So I think that one of the big conversations that really needs to take place around housing is what housing model we utilize for what populations.
Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question. Sorry.
It did. I was just thinking, we actually have an opportunity there in that those buildings, they're already built, so that we're not outlaying that cost. It would be relatively easy, I think, to refurbish it for the purpose intended. And I would see that the purpose wouldn't just be to house, but to have those resources there as well, including job training. Because as Judge Freeman pointed out, these folks live a long life, and the whole idea is to prevent them from recidivism and to encourage their recovery. So a big part of that is for them to find a job. And where better than in an old casino to train for your future job at a possible casino, seeing as that's the main employer here, at least in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a great idea. That's kind of the model we have. We have treatment on site. We have case management on site. We have the employment training. So, I mean, I love that model. I think that that'd be a great, I don't know how you would start having that conversation, but I think that would be great for our community.
So who would we have that conversation with?
I'm gonna say
I don't know.
I would say
the chair
talk to the
recognizes
Fertittas.
Dr. Dixon.
Yeah, I would say, Jose, that you somebody try to engage the Fertitta brothers in it because they own the property.
Okay, well, there's a place to start.
There's a place.
Thank you, and that was my assessment of that also. It's a private company that owns that private casino, and that would be your initial start to talk with them and have all your other partners that may feel the same way that you do. So great feedback. I am enjoying this on this kind of gloomy day in Southern Nevada. I do have a question. If no one else has any other questions, Kelly, anyone else's hands are raised? Okay, my question actually is the same that I asked of the judge. How long, and I know that you have several programs that that are available to the courts. But generally, how long are the programs, and what are, in general, the graduation rates?
Great question. Thank you so much. So, I would say the majority are about 12 to 18 months. And so it's really looking at where that participant is. We like to take them off of probation when they complete, if we can. There's different things, but the programs are really 12 to 18 months. The majority. Our felony DUI program is a minimum of 3 with a maximum of 5. Again, that's defined by statute. Our Lima program, you're not in the justice system. So we're really just trying to look at when you're stable and you're ready. It's really defined upon that participant. And our medically assisted treatment court, because it's reentry, we tell them that they can stay with us. And however, we require that they have a minimum of 6 to 8 months on parole. So we do have that time to work with them and get them engaged, but we would like to see them for about 12 months to 16 months. We have some that stay past parole, and we have some that, leave when they complete their parole. But it's really 12 to 18 months, without mental health courts, probably about 2 years, because we really want to make sure that we get them to a point where they can sustain on their, disability. It still takes us about 2 years to get them on disability, which is very difficult for me, but I'll dive into that system another time. So the 12 to 18 months probably. And then our graduation rates are, I could put it in percentage. I only have the numbers, but that's where the numbers can be kind of skewed. I could get you the graduation rate percentage because we only look at it in a year framework, whereas again, the programs can be 12 to 18 months.
And that would be fine if you can submit that later. I would
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Great presentations by both of our presenters. I want to just extend my gratitude to you taking the time and presenting for us today. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you all for having me. And, it's a really important conversation that our community needs. So I appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you. Okay, so we now have agenda item number 5. This will be a little detailed, so bear with us so that we can get a lot of our information out here. We're reviewing the process for prioritizing recommendations, upcoming meetings, and conflict of interest. So this next slide is an overview of our recent and upcoming timeline. Next slide, please. This is the timeline we have been working from since last month. Today, we have a chance to hear from subject matter experts. The subcommittee can also review additional information impacting recommendations, such as any that may require a BDR, those that have a funding source and those that do not, and recommendations included in the ACRN report. Discussion and motion to refine, expand, or evaluate recommendations will occur in today's meeting and the September subcommittee meeting. This will ensure that the annual report includes recommendations that are significantly specific and actionable. Next slide, please. I want to bring to the SURG committee members' attention the email sent by Dr. Kearns from the Attorney General's office to SURG members on August 2nd to clarify issues regarding the conflict of interest and the role of the SURG. As outlined in the above references, there are a couple of points to remember. The SURG does not make direct grants to any program, but rather makes recommendations to DHHS on the use of funding to address the impact of opiate misuse and other substance use disorders. When discussing programs or organizations with which the search committee member is affiliated, the member should make a disclosure or state their intentions to abstain from making specific motions or casting a vote prior to any discussion. If a member is unsure whether they have a conflict requiring disclosure or abstention from an agenda item, they are encouraged to seek advice from counsel with the Attorney General's office. To avoid conflicts of interest, SURG recommendations should be made for general types of programs, such as the recommendation to provide certified prevention specialists in Nevada schools, to provide appropriate prevention education and programming, as opposed to specific programs, or to provide funding recommendations to DHHS to support any board related to opiate and other substance use disorders, rather than recommending support for a specific board. DHHS makes the final decision on the use of the funds and provides opportunities for specific programs to apply for these funds. Another example would be the concept of creating a set-aside fund for small grants. The SURG could not independently create such a fund, but SURG members could make a recommendation to DHHS to create such a fund. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Dr. Kearns, and that's at tkearns@ag.nv.gov. Any questions? Okay. All right, we'll go to, I'm sorry, was there a hand raised?
I think, Madam Chair, Ms. Lee has her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Lee, Chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. I do want to own my mistake in making the recommendation for the Nevada Certification Board, of which I am a member. I also want to disclose that I receive no financial compensation for member. It is all voluntary. So I want to openly disclose that and apologize if I was out of my lane there. In addition, I would also like the record to reflect that any sort of vote on such an item, I would absolutely abstain given my position on that board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Appreciate that. Any other? All right, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 6, subcommittee recommendations and discussion of the top 5 priorities. Okay. Weighted recommendations were presented in June. We reviewed them briefly in July and asked for additional input from the group. Keep in mind that only 5 to 7 will go forward to the SURG, not including the harm reduction recommendations. It was discussed in July that investing in behavioral health workforce should be elevated and included in the top 5 to 7. Next slide, please. I asked members to review the recommendations we have compiled to date, and prior to this meeting, they each independently rank their preliminary top 5 recommendations. We will continue to add recommendations and rank them moving forward, but wanted to see where there was consensus among members on preliminary priorities. Here are the top 5 recommendations reviewed individually to date. Are there any revisions needed to these recommendations?
Madam Chair, Ms. Lee.
Chair recognizes Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really am impressed, Lisa Lee for the record, I'm impressed with these recommendations. I would suggest more inclusive language regarding, it says pregnant women. I would hope that we could change that to pregnant and birthing persons to fully capture the ways in which people have pregnancies and give birth.
All right, do we have a motion to, I believe that's item number 5, or yes, point 5, implementing follow-ups and referrals. Is that where you were looking at, Ms. Lee? Okay, do we have a motion to amend? To include language that Ms. Lee has suggested that we include?
Hi, this is Chelsea. I will make that motion to amend.
Thank you, Ms. Cheatham. And do we have a second?
This is Steve Shell. I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Shell. All in favor, please signify with yay.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any abstentions? Pardon me. If none, motion carries. Thank you. Next slide, please. This continues the list of weighted recommendations you have reviewed previously. Next slide, please. Now, on this slide, you see recommendations again related to workforce and strengthening the treatment and recovery supports for youth, including those in the child welfare system. At our July meeting, it was suggested to elevate the highlighted recommendation. However, it was also discussed that more specifics are needed to know what strategies are being recommended. And a member suggested that working with the Board of Examiners or Certification Board to provide financial assistance or reciprocity, as well as developing health equity through recruitment and retention of a diverse workforce might be more specific. And we can see that on the July 26 meeting minutes, page 5. Ms. Lee encouraged members to think through these details to be more pragmatic for implementation, including engaging individuals with lived experience. So we've highlighted and bolded out the radical changes, and I believe that that's what you were looking at, Ms. Lee. Do we have any language that we want to include in this to be more specific?
Madam Chair, Ms. Lee has her hand raised.
Chair recognizes Ms. Lee.
Madam Chair, thank you. Lisa Lee for the record. I do think that radical changes should be defined. Again, looking at reciprocity, financial assistance for licensure and certification, and again, ensuring that our workforce reflects the diversity in our state. and to better offer services in culturally and linguistically appropriate manner. So that would be my suggestion, is to add more concrete language, because radical changes to me could mean one thing, but radical changes to any of us, I'm sure if you asked all of us what that means, we would all define it in a different way. And so I think speaking in concrete terms, like what can we actually chip away at? Can we help to fund licensure and certification? Can we help recruit people other than English language speakers, for example, or members of the trans community, for example, BIPOC workforce members? Can we be thoughtful around recruitment and retention and licensure and certification, and also reciprocity, which has been kind of a consistent barrier to, that's been driving our provider shortage? Can we offer financial incentives or tuition forgiveness, like student loan forgiveness, to people in healthcare provider shortage areas, such as rural areas of Nevada? I think just having concrete strategies in our language would make this a little bit more thoughtful and actionable.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Dr. Dixon, did you have? Yes.
Did
Chair
you?
recognizes.
Yes, did you read my mind? So I think to generalize on what Ms. Lee just said, and in keeping with what you read from Dr. Kearns, I mean, even though DHHS will carry out the recommendations, it seems to me that some of these recommendations need to be put more into a language that suggests how we would like DHHS to do what we want them to do. And like the first few are a little bit too vague and not really, I mean, should they be a grant program? Should they be, what should DHHS do with this recommendation? I suppose in regards to that, it might be worth having Dr. Woodard come back and talk with us about that a little bit. She could suggest how to convert a recommendation into a real proposal.
Well, that sounds really good, but I do need clarification on the treatment and recovery subcommittee. How are we looking at it, and are we to define what we present to the SURG committee in total, and how language should be forthcoming? Because I don't know whether or not, I need some direction on how this is supposed to be presented when we present in October.
Yeah, good question. Let's see, October.
So, Madam Chair, I see that Chelsea Cheatham is raising her hand, and Ms. Lee is as well.
Okay, Chair recognizes Ms. Cheatham and then Ms. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you. So I had two things. One of them was 2 slides back, but for this one, I fully support what Ms. Lee suggested, and maybe we could just add those things in radical changes. So a lot of the suggestions that Ms. Lee put forth, we could just kind of change that wording and incorporate that into the suggestion to make it more specific.
Okay. Ms. Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. One additional thought that came to mind was the compensation piece, which I don't think we fully addressed, but that could be something actionable, like raising Medicaid reimbursement rates or Medicaid match, or something actionable. That's more of a specific request to DHS, not a request, a recommendation to DHHS. But it's definitely something that, like, they could sink their teeth into and look at revising reimbursement rates, because I know that plays a factor in what agencies are able to compensate their staff, and it can drive away talent, or it can attract and retain talent depending. And so I definitely think a thorough look over of that billing structure would be a recommendation we could also add language to.
Perfect. Okay, we can include that and then, refine as we go on. Any other input? Because I want to go back to Ms. Cheatham, and she said that she had questions regarding some other slide, if you could.
Yes, so it's actually the one that we made the correction on, the last bullet point here. And I was just wondering if it should say implement follow-ups and referrals to support and care, linkage of care for incarcerated and or court involved individuals.
Okay. So now we need to go back and because I believe we had a motion on there, so we need to amend the amended motion.
Madam Chair, Ms. Lee has her hand.
Ms. Lee, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. This is a question for Chelsea. I'm wondering if the term justice involved individuals would capture both people who were incarcerated and also people who were involved with the court system, as well as people re-entering citizens as well. Does that fully encapsulate kind of all of those populations?
I believe it does, yes. I like that decision.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so who ever makes the motion, I want to clarify how you want this to read.
Madam Chair, I would move to amend, I think it's bullet point 5, to state linkage of care for justice involved individuals and pregnant or birthing persons with opioid use disorder.
And do I have a second?
This is Chelsea Cheatham, my second.
Thank you. All in favor? Please signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion to amend the amended motion has passed. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, you had made a suggestion, or it was suggested that Dr. Woodard, I apologize. That Dr. Woodard could potentially craft the recommendation that is highlighted there. As staff, we could document the discussion from this meeting, provide those draft minutes to Dr. Woodard and ask her to do a revision, or we could just take the minutes and have the working group or the subcommittee fully make a motion and amend a motion and vote on it at the September meeting.
That would be good too, but I would really like to hear from Dr. Woodard. I believe that, that the subcommittee would be enhanced by hearing her input or having her input into this conversation.
I know that Madam Chair Kelly Marshall, for the record, I know she's been invited to the next subcommittee meeting and actually was invited to this one and then messaged me that she was in a board meeting, was not able to attend. Otherwise, she would be here today.
Great. Okay, so we can table this for the next meeting and have Dr. Woodard have her input into this. This would be for the September meeting. All right? Okay, next slide, please. All right, so does this committee want to revisit the highlighted recommendations per the meeting minutes from July 26th and make a motion regarding elevating this recommendation? So everyone is okay with it? No one wants to elevate it? Okay.
Well, let's just say one thing. Is there any way it could be incorporated into one of the higher level recommendations?
You know what? I think that you probably, Kelly, if you could go back 1, 2.
So Madam Chair, for the record, Kelly Marshall, this is the first page. These are the top 5.
Right. So Dr. Dixon, are you indicating that you would like to see that in one of the top 5 to 7?
Well, I think that's that would be the way to do it. And I'm not sure I remember which one would be the best. I would like other people's input, but I'm thinking, you know, when we have, like, say, this very first one, individuals. Well, why don't we, you know, expand on what we mean by individuals or something like that. So, because I think it's really important. But I mean, everything we're talking about should be done to all communities, you know, especially communities that aren't getting enough attention. So, yeah. So, but I would, you know, I'd like to defer to some other people to kind of look and see what they think.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, Lisa Lee has her hand raised.
Ms. Lee, chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. I just want to call attention to the ways in which health equity rears its head everywhere. And, you know, if we are being data driven, it is a national trend that we're seeing this disparity in overdose fatalities, including in Nevada. There was a recently published paper by Sean Thomas and others looking at our Nevada fatal drug poisoning data and looking at the increasing disparities with our Hispanic and Latinx community here in Nevada. And so I kind of feel like this is something we should constantly talk about. If we really mean that we want to achieve health equity, we need to talk about it and we need to prioritize it. It's clear that there are some communities that are receiving overdose prevention, recognition, and reversal training, as well as opioid reversal overdose reversal medication, naloxone, and some communities that are not. And so I just want to make sure that as a committee, we're being thoughtfully dialed into the trends that, again, we're seeing here in our state, and that our recommendations reflect actionable items to make sure that we're addressing these growing disparities.
Point taken. Thank you, Ms. Lee. To Dr. Dixon, I am in agreement that I think that this highlighted area should be my opinion, should be elevated to bullet number 4. It fits in there. And it explains what I believe is something that when we say engage individuals, it actually starts defining what we are looking at.
Yeah, I agree. I think that looks like a good place.
So please take a moment to digest that. And if we are in agreement, Ms. Lee, go right ahead. Chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering, there are 3 top priority areas for medication-assisted treatment. And I really think it's probably referring to MOUD, medications for opioid use disorder, rather than kind of comprehensive MAT in general. It looks like it's pretty specific to opioid use. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to sort of combine or collapse some of those into one recommendation regarding MOUD. And then, or, I mean, if we're also including alcohol use disorder, then it should continue to remain MAT rather than MOUD. But I'm wondering if there's an opportunity that we can put, expand access to MOUD and MAT and recovery supports for opioid use disorder, limit barriers to individuals seeking treatment regardless of the ability to pay. I'm wondering if we can add and establish a bridge MAP program in emergency departments, and then make the other recommendation kind of stand on its own.
Which would be the use and promote telehealth standing on its own? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean the other recommendation concerning disparities in overdose fatalities.
Oh, okay. Well, the committee, I'm asking, for your input. Ms. Lee has made a proposal. Please, I need some feedback on that also. Okay, Chair recognizes anyone.
Dr.
Dixon?
Dixon?
Yeah, I mean, I not with the proposal, but with the concept of switching to MOUD. First off, she did mention alcohol. We've got some good medications for alcohol use disorder, so I don't want to eliminate that. Same thing for tobacco. We've got some good medications for that, and now we are starting to have some success. I had a successful patient the other day with something for amphetamine. So even though I realize this all started with some opioid settlement money, the SURG committee the Attorney General committee years ago started with that, with actually amphetamines. And so I think we want to keep broad if we can. And the same patients show up in the same place. We take care of patients with all kinds of substance use disorders in our clinics. So actually it should be MAT for SUD. SUDs. But anyway, that's just my thoughts about it. But I'm not commenting on the proposal because I didn't quite catch all that. So.
Chair recognizes Ms. Lee. Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Madam Chair, thank you for the recognition. Lisa Lee, for the record, I agree with Dr. Dixon. And we do things with language, right? We construct whole worlds with language. And so I'm a believer that we should be fully intentional and strategic with language. And it does say MAT and recovery supports for OUD specifically, which is why I mentioned the MOUD. But I agree with Dr. Dixon that it should be more inclusive. Oh, I just shoulded all over. I'm sorry. That it could be more inclusive of, SUD in general. And so I would propose that we change it to SUD to allow a more comprehensive and thoughtful recommendation around substance use disorders broadly, rather than just kind of pigeonholing it into OUD. If we could, I mean, I really do agree with Dr. Dixon. There's medications that have been very effective for treating alcohol use disorder, as well as a lot of promising evidence around psychostimulant use disorders. And so I would urge that we're a little bit more broad with that language. But again, thinking of, are there ways in which we could collapse some of these MAT categories into one singular recommendation? I don't know what the recommendations would have, like what effects they would have on the weighted score, or really how that rubric or how that designation happened, but maybe we could collapse it.
And Chair recognizes Ms. Cheatham, do you have anything input? Okay, all right.
No, actually, I just accidentally took myself off mute, but no, I don't have any input. I'm still looking at them to figure out how they could be collapsed.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to note, Kelly Marshall, for the record, that Mr. Shell messaged me that he needed to jump off. We still have a quorum.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so I want to make sure staff has captured everything that we have discussed so far. And if so, could we table so that we could actually, look at it before our next meeting, and then decide whether or not, where we want to collapse and include these bullet statements to make one statement and to capture the language that we need to go forward with. Chair recognizes Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Lee for the record. Just looking at this again, and I appreciate what you said in us taking the time to be thoughtful and do that, in preparation for the next meeting. But I do see another opportunity. So it could say, the first bullet point, expand access to MAT, and then as well as recovery support, including the use and promotion of telehealth for MAT, considering the modifications that have been made under the emergency policies. Now I'm collapsing all three categories, right?
I noticed.
Under the emergency policies and innovative programs such as establishing a bridge MAT program in the emergency department. Boom.
Okay. And that would be one bullet point.
So Madam Chair, Kelly Marshall for the record, if I can just reflect back to make sure that we got it, although I have high confidence in Laura Hill's ability to take great notes and also read the transcript. It sounds like for bullet one, it's expanding access to MAT and recovery supports for SUD.
Exactly,
including the rest of that sentence, and then going to use and promote telehealth, and then going to establish a bridge MAT program. Is that correct?
Yes, Lisa Lee for the record. Yes, Kelly, that is correct, with some modifying words to make it make sense, like including using and promoting telehealth. And then something like, and pursuing innovative programs such as establishing a bridge MAT program in emergency departments, something like that, some little modifying words to string it all together.
All right. Okay, and then we want to include elevating the highlighted, what was that? Two slide, yeah, yes. The
So I believe
BIPOC,
this one, Madam Chair, Kelly Marshall, for the record,
yes,
we're going to document all of the discussion we had on definitions for radical change, provide them to
Exactly.
Dr. Woodard, and then
Yes.
ask her to present at the next meeting on
Yes.
this.
yes.
And then for this one, this is
We're
what you were
moving-
discussing, elevating.
Right. Okay. And we will table it because I believe there might be additional um, uh, tweaking of some verbiage in the recommendations that we are considering. But good start. I'm really pleased with the feedback that everyone is participating, and we're making sure that we're ready for the next phase of this and getting our points across, knowing that DHHS will be funding our recommendations. Fingers crossed.
Madam Chair, would you like me to move to the next agenda item?
Please, ma'am. And the next one is on the agenda is number 7, subject matter experts for future meetings. The presenters and topics listed on this slide include those we've collected from subcommittee members and or outreach to. We initially wanted to fit presentations into the August meeting in order to leave the September meeting open to prioritize our recommendations. However, we are taking motions this meeting so that we can make presentations in September and still have time to finalize our recommendations. The highlighted presenters have been in contact with the staff. Ms. Willer is available for the September meeting, and staff can see if Ms. C is available that date. We will continue to schedule presentations after September as our work will continue. Are there any other presenters essential, given that we need to finalize the first set of recommendations at the September meeting for presentations to the SURG in October? So do we have anyone else on this list that we can give to staff that, and I believe that Judge actually Freeman had recommended Judge Simon. So we might want to, have that one also noted. So just know that our work will continue, so additional presentations can be scheduled after October.
Madam Chair, Lisa Lee has her hand raised.
I'm sorry, Chair recognizes Lisa Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, so does anyone know who Chad Sabora is? He was a former prosecuting attorney. He's a person in long-term recovery. He's with Faces and Voices of Recovery. He's also the executive director of the Missouri Network for Opiate Reform and Recovery. Most recently, there have been several news stories about his naloxone boxies, and naloxone boxies look an awful lot like, anybody remember reading printed papers and you go to the paper rack on the street corners, right? My
Yes.
paper people. So they look a lot like a newspaper rack. I don't even see those anymore, but for all of my folks who can remember newspaper racks, they kind of look like that. They can be easily placed in community settings, including spaces that there are a high amount of overdose fatalities. So it could be something that's data driven and placed in communities that are most affected, just to increase low barrier access to naloxone. And so I would be really interested in hearing from him kind of how, how did he formulate this? How did he get the boxes? Because it's something that I think we could use to expand access and community saturation, especially thinking about marginalized populations or populations that may have barriers to accessing kind of the traditional mechanisms for getting naloxone. I would be super interested in hearing from him because I think it's a very implementable community-based solution that we could definitely look at.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lee. And I believe that staff is on, we'll include that and see if we can get Mr. Savora to present to the committee. Okay, next slide, please. We're at agenda item number 8, public comment. So public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public may comment on any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda at this time. However, no action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241.020. And Kelly, do we have any public comment via Zoom? Any
We
hand
do,
raised?
Madam Chair. So both Rhonda Fairchild and Dr. Corona have raised their hands.
Thank you. Ms. Fairchild, Chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Rhonda Fairchild, for the record, and I wanted to thank Judge Freeman because Matt is so important to those who suffer with an OUD. I would like to add, can we move away from calling people addicts? We call them persons with a substance use disorder instead of addicts. And although Washoe County and Clark County jails do treat MOUD, NDOC does not. So if a client goes to jail and is on MAT, has a provider, has a doctor, is on medically assisted treatment, they are forcibly detoxed when they are sent to prison, which is against ADA. And then I would like to thank Denise Parker for her presentation. Working in the section of criminal justice reform, all I can say is housing, housing, housing. When I meet with a releasing inmate, I cannot send them to a sober living that I have vetted and known for years. They can, however, get approved to go to their mother's house where their uncle is cooking crack in the back room. And on the weighted recommendations, and I'm not sure if I can speak on this, I'm just going to say it, bullet number 4, engage individuals with lived experience in program design considerations. I think that's an individual bullet point because it's talking about peer support and engaging peer support specialists in the design of these considerations or of these programs. People with lived experience, people with the boots on the ground, people. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fairchild. Dr. Corona?
Well, I am 100% behind Ms. Fairchild in regards to the need, both of changing our verbiage. I'm guilty of that myself. And 2, definitely in agreement with the need of us bringing up the topic of housing and figuring out a better solution than we currently have. In regards to the naloxone boxes, I think that would be a very interesting topic, and I can see that working in different parts of Las Vegas. So I would be very much inclined to hear that. That's all my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Corona. And Kelly, do we have anyone else on the Zoom?
I do
Anyone?
not see any other hands raised, Madam Chair, and we do not have any participants joined by telephone.
Great. Okay, thank you so much for your participation today. This was a great meeting. I appreciate everyone's time and attendance. And we'll go to item number 9, adjournment. You all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was a long meeting.